Right, so this video is from Scottish Jundus. So it's Scott Jund, if you don't know who that is, have you played DBD this long and you do not know who this person is? It's kind of weird. Yeah. But Scott is talking about, can survivors be more than perks? Probably has been inspired by the recent Texas Chainsaw release to ask, should survivors be more than just skins? Because essentially survivors, if you're somehow out of the loop, are essentially just a bunch of skins. Like, there's nothing unique about the survivor you play except the cosmetics that are on them and who they are. There's no powers or anything from survivor to survivor. So, homie's probably going to suggest making them more than that. But that's just my guess. But like with everything, even though Scott is a very, very huge and accomplished creator, still make sure you like and support the original content, because that makes you a jerk if you're just reloading. So don't do that. Like and support the official release. Anyways, let's go ahead and listen to what homie has to say.
I wanted to talk about a pretty commonly suggested feature for Dead by Daylight on the survivor side. Having played Texas Chainsaw Massacre for quite a bit in the past few days. The topic is the idea of survivors being more than just skins in DBD. Now,
I will say initially, before we even get into this conversation, I do not like this idea. I am not for this idea, because, like, let's just take it for example. Let's do a little example here. Let's say survivors in Dead by Daylight are more than skins, and they only have they have specific abilities, but their specific ability is just their teachables. Let's say teachables aren't shareable anymore. So if you want Lythe, you gotta play Fong. If you want Reverse, you gotta play Meg. If you want Bond, you gotta play Dwight. Stuff like that. There's definitely going to be a meta of survivors at that point then. So, like, if you want to play Jeff because you think Jeff's cool, Breakdown, Aftercare, and Distortion. The only one's even slightly good among that is Distortion. So suddenly, playing Jeff just becomes like a complete detriment to your team because you're not playing a character that actually has good perks. So that's kind of like the danger of that. That's what, and we've already seen that in Texas Chainsaw. In Texas Chainsaw is that a lot of people play specific victims, and when somebody rejects their trade to play a specific victim, they just like leave, and then the lobby essentially crashes because backfill is really bad in the game, because they want to play a very, very specific character because they want to play what's good. And then the lobby fails, and the match doesn't even end up happening, and it's just a mess. It's just a mess. So it's actually something I think from Texas Chainsaw that I think should never cross over to Dead by Daylight.
I'm not saying we go full Texas Chainsaw and we have it so David can tackle someone like Leland can or something like that. We can't be giving survivors like legit powers in this game. As cool as it would be, it would completely change the entire game, so much so that I don't even think that'd be a good idea. However, what has been toyed around with is the concept of just basic passives that are related to the survivor that we're talking about. And so I wanted to make this video to see suggestions from you guys and more like opinions of whether or not this could actually work, because I think this could definitely work. You just need to be really careful in the way that you balance it, because if you make choices a little too enticing, you make it so you only see X survivor in every single game, and you don't want to do that. But if you don't make them impactful enough, then it's like, why even bother adding it to begin with? So it's really going to come down to the specific balancing of how to do it. Just like, let's just live spitball some ideas here. For Dwight, his whole thing is the whole leadership thing. That's like his like idea of a perk. Prove thyself. He's always trying to prove himself to other people. So his whole thing can just be survivors heal 5% faster when within X meters of Dwight or something like that. Just something so they'll get a yellow bar, and yellow bar equals dopamine, and that's good. Again, you don't want to make it like 25%. You don't want to give him a free perk, but you want to give him something that sets him apart from everybody else just a little bit.
I think even if you make these like really minute and ineffective, like you just make it like the tiniest buff in the world, it's the Dead by Daylight community, man. People are going to whine and freak out over anything. Like, they just are. If there's one thing I've learned consistently about this community is just like most entitled, whiny crybabies that have ever existed. Like, just like the most outrageous, just like boy cried wolf gamers in the world. Like, there is not a community on this planet for gaming that is more just like, I want to find something to complain about and freak out about for literally no reason than this community. So, yeah, you can add like 2% heal speed to Dwight, but there'll be someone who finds issue with that. And somebody's like, oh, well, wow, now he's running a full healing build, and since he's Dwight, that's just OP. Like, somebody's going to find a way to take issue with that. Somebody's going to find a way to take issue with that. And there will be, even if it's only like 1 or 2% help, like, somebody's going to find a way to complain about it. Somebody's going to find a way to be like, oh, well, of course they're running Quitten. That's meta. It opens the gates 1% faster. You know, like, people will find a way to complain and whine about it. So, I don't know. That is true. I've always said that perk potency should never be a thing. I feel like most perks in the game should hover around A or B tier and never be higher. They should never be S tier and they should never be like D tier. Should be in a nice cozy zone where they're moderately helpful, but they don't dictate a game. But I don't know if we'll ever be at that point. Like, literally ever.
Meg, she can recover from exhaustion 5% faster or something like that. So it'll
That's OP! That's OP! You know what I'm saying? Like, somebody will yell about that.
You know, maybe 1 out of every 30 games, it might like specifically come in handy, that exact window. But for the most part, not going to do too much, but it's on brand with her. It's her theme.
On brand?
Claudette, very simple one. She heals 5-10% faster. For Jake, you can make it so his sabotaging is X% faster. Nia can, when she's crouching, move 5-10% faster. Bill, maybe the borrowed time effect that he grants when you're unhooking someone, that can last 2 seconds longer than normal. David, I mean, like, these are the
well, that's what I'm saying is, like, you know, like, this is a game that is very, 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 very deep in its life cycle. Very, very deep in its life cycle. It's a very, very old game. So very subtly changing the DNA of the game from the survivor perspective, it's a pretty huge change. Could rock the boat, possibly in a good way, might even be in a bad way. So just gotta be careful.
Ideas where they're not so impactful that they actually completely change the game, but they are something that gives survivors a little bit more of a reason to be picked rather than just being a skin. Because I do genuinely like that about Texas Chainsaw. I think right now,
imagine the tweets,
Survivor in that game is actually kind of more fun than it is in this game. And that
really,
is because
I feel the opposite. I feel like Survivor is more fun in DVD because at least you get to loop. At least you get to loop. If family shows up, if like 2 or 3 family members show up on you at the same time, like you just die. Right? Like there's nothing you can do. Like looping with in Dead by Daylight, like you could potentially not get caught for a really, really long time. I know Bloodlust will eventually kick in and you will eventually get downed, but then you have 2 more chances afterwards, right? Because it's only first took. I think Survivor's more fun in Dead by Daylight than Victim is. I think Victim is like, hey, if you get caught in a bad situation, you don't get 2 more chances. You just die right away. You just die right away, and that's it. You don't get a second chance. And it doesn't matter if you didn't spawn or were found in a place without any real good crawl spaces, or Bubba just so happened to have shut down all the crawl spaces in that area. Yeah, exactly, Verbal. Like, she had nothing, literally nothing she could do. And it wasn't because she played badly. She just got found in a position where, like, the only escape was that crawl space, and you would cut it off already. So, like, at least with Dead by Daylight, I could, like, loop them for a little bit, waste a little bit of time, and then get a second chance when I come off hook. Second chance to do things. If you mess up in Texas Chainsaw, even if it's not your fault, like, the mess up is not your fault, you're just done. You gotta re-roll. You gotta go next game. Re-queue. So I actually find Survivor way more fun in Dead by Daylight than Victim. It's interesting.
Of the varying level of customization you actually have with your Survivor, it's not just a skin. You actually have stats. You have things that you do better and things that you do worse than other characters. And then obviously the powers on top of that. But I don't want to go that far. I think that's way too game-changing. But I do think little simple things like that. You know, Ace, one of the chests are highlighted at the start of the match. Fang, her skill checks are 10% bigger. You know, Quentin opens exit gates 5% faster. Like, you just basically take the base perk that is sort of central to them that kind of defines who they are. Michaela would boon things 5% faster. Just take the core identity of a perk and amplify that a little bit. Not so much so that it's going to be game-changing, but enough so that there's a bit more of a reason to pick them. I don't think it'll be enough to where people are now going to min-max. I hate blank Survivor, but they do will. 1% faster.
They will.
So I'm going to say
they will. They'll try to min-max, and it will piss people off. It will. It's the DBD community. In a perfect world, yes. But realistically, in this community, Yeah, they will complain.
0.1 seconds on a gen. Therefore, I'm going to just throw away all the skins I have on everyone else. I'm just only going to pick. I don't think people are going to take it that seriously. Maybe in tournaments or whatever they'll do that, but for 99.99% of games, people won't be doing that. It'll just be a little bonus.
Min-max the diet like ace mains do? True.
Interesting for picking that particular survivor. And I don't really see the harm in being conservative with it to give you something else. So I'm curious to hear what you guys would think. There's a ton of survivors. I kind of struggled to think what I would do with some of them. Like, I don't know, what would I do with Cheryl? Like, you'd have to like really think about the IP they're from and kind of go off of something like that. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think. I think it'd be an interesting comment section. And yeah.
What you could do is make it like sections, like both Claudette and Rebecca Chambers like have like healing backgrounds, like stuff in the lore that, you know, makes them healers. Or like, you know, you could even extend it to legendaries, like Lisa. Lisa's a nurse. Just make like, oh, these guys heal faster. Instead of giving it one per character, you could have like classes. You could do classes too. That could also be a thing. Yeah, it could work. That could work. You could separate into classes. That would make things better too, because it's not like all people like running like one character to min-max. You have like maybe like eight characters that are of the same class. That way, if you're wanting to like say, you know, we want to do the healing thing, we want to be a healing gamer, we want to max healing, there's like 8 characters I can pick from, like 8 healing like healers that I can pick. I can see that. I can see that.
Overall, I've been enjoying Texas Chainsaw quite a bit. I do think the survivor role is definitely more fun than in DBD, but I find the killer role to actually be more boring than in DBD, so it's sort of a toss-up. But that is going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
I don't know. I like both. I really do like both.
Toss-up.
I really do like both. Like, killer and family are both really, really fun for me. Because, like, while I agree that, like, the killer role, the family role in Texas Chainsaw is not as fun, just because there's a lot of dead air and dead time, and you're relying on your teammates, so if your teammates are bad, it's kind of a bummer. But also, if you get good teammates, or you're queuing with your friends, playing with your friends or playing with a good team of randoms is super fun. Super fun in that game. That's something you can't do in Dead by Daylight. So I feel like they're kind of equal in a weird way, whereas one kind of sucks in one department, it makes up for it in another. I think that I do agree. Not agree, but I do think that, like, I find Victim way more boring than Survivor in Dead by Daylight. It's kind of interesting. The only caveat is that, like, Victim and Texas Chainsaw, at least you can just escape by yourself. If you have bad randoms, it doesn't matter. you just leave on your own. But I think overall the role is more boring because there's no looping. There's just like, well, there's kind of is, but not really. It's just kind of like, hey, you get found, and if you don't get found, if you get found in a bad spot or by multiple family members, you probably just die. Time to go to the next match, idiot. You know, so I don't know. I do think in terms of like what with what Scott's saying, I think if we make it like really tiny, like 2 or 3%, I don't think it's the worst idea in the world. But it's one of those things where like you know, you got to be careful about that because people are going to complain and whine about it. So you got to be very careful. And do you trust behavior to do that? Probably not. But probably really something busted by accident or something completely useless by accident. Past the stars where they touch Steve and Nancy? Yeah. I mean, they're nerfing and adjusting Demogorgon perks this next patch. They're not untouchable. They just can't sell them anymore. Just because Stranger Things DLC is gone doesn't mean they can adjust things from a balance perspective. There's just no new skins, and they can't sell the DLC anymore. They can still balance adjust them. They're still allowed to do that. They're not like untouchable or anything. Probably can't rework demo. You don't know that. You don't know that at all. That's just guesswork. That's just guesswork. I mean, if they're doing something drastic like taking away his power and making it do something completely different, they'd probably have to consult them maybe. But if, like, just like making the portals work differently or making the shred work differently, like, why not? Yeah, I think it would be a generally a good idea. But it's just like in a perfect let's asterisk that. I think in a perfect world it would be a good idea to add these powers. But like, I don't know. Realistically, the DBD community's gonna be like, oh, they're min-maxing, they're so sweaty. Like, they already complain as it is. Like, it's gonna get even worse if they have like miniature powers and stuff. So I don't know. Like, in an ideal world, yeah, that'd be really, really cool, and I'd love that, but, like, whatever. Like, the community will find a way to ruin it, so. Could we be on fire? Yep, they'd be like, oh my god, everybody's running, quitting now because they want to just speed through the exit gates. You know, everybody's running mad because they want to abuse their exhaustion perks. Yeah. I don't know. Like, it's just like, that's how that's going to be reacted to. Almost 100% that's how it's going to be reacted to. And is that worth it? I don't know. I don't know. But could be cool. Just depends how you execute it.